Morning, Cold Warrior 78 here. I want to talk about work gloves for a minute. I know it's a really mundane topic and most of you aren't going to be particularly excited about it, but it's really something, if you're going to have a homestead, if you're going to work hard, you're just going to have to get used to. Now behind me, I'll just pull up here, I've got 7 pair of work gloves. My preference is usually some version of leather, standard leather kind of work gloves, and I work these things hard. If I get a year out of a pair of work gloves, they have been an excellent pair of gloves. And you'll notice, because I'm right-handed, I'm typically holding the tool in the right hand. It's the left-hand glove that tends to get all torn up on whatever I'm doing. But my point to you guys is really going to be, do you have a pair of gloves that fit you, that you wear routinely? Now, you don't have to wear it on everything, but on anything you're doing that's going to potentially hurt your hands, something simple as cutting chicken wire. Okay, you can tear your hands all up to the point where you're bleeding. We're not talking necessarily deep cuts, but anything that breaks the skin, that's dangerous. If you're talking about a grid down situation, for goodness sakes, your skin is what protects you from all of the germs that are out there. Any puncture you get in your skin is a bad idea. If you read any of the prepper fiction, watch any of the prepper drama out there, typically somebody gets a cut on a hand, maybe a foot, no antibiotics around, and next thing you know, they die from some simple little injury. I really don't care whether fiction works or not, but the reality is, if you're cutting your hands, you're just making a stupid decision. Now, there are lots of different kinds of gloves out on the market. Like I said, I prefer the leather because they work for me, and I have found sizes in particular brands that fit me well. For example, I prefer, if I can get a pigskin or a goatskin work glove. They last fairly long, maybe 8 months-ish, rather than 12 that I can get out of cowhide, but I typically get them to fit a lot closer to my hand. I have a lot more dexterity. I don't have a problem using tools, grabbing nails, screws, doing the whole thing, wearing these leather gloves because they fit right, and I take the time to find one that does fit right. Now, my wife has considerably smaller hands than I do, and she has always had a problem finding work gloves. Let me show you her solution. These kind of rubber covered stretchy fabric on the back, I'm not sure exactly what they're made out of. A couple of different manufacturers make these. You can find them in the big box stores. Quite frankly, I've tried those and I hate them. I can't even get a week out of those things before they're torn up. And you know, that means I got to have 50, 60 pair of them a year. It makes no sense to me. However, because she doesn't do the kind of hard manual labor that I do, she's mostly working in the garden and things, these work really well for her, and because they're stretchy and they come in small sizes, they fit, and she can work with them, which she's never been able to work with the big heavy leather gloves. So if it works for you, use them. You know, you can go to Home Depot, any of the big box stores, and they'll have 100 different kinds of gloves out there. Find a size, find a style, go buy, you know, the rubber kind, go buy the mechanic gloves, go buy the this and the that and the whatevers, and try it, and find one that works for you. And if you can't find one in a big box store, then look online. What we did is we found these, a local factory was using these, and so I got the manufacturer's name. I bought her a case, so she's got 100 pair of these things, so she'll be in gloves for quite a while. And I'm glad I found her something to work with, because she was always tearing her hands up without them. Now, these are not rugged enough to be dealing with roses or greenbriers or anything like that. For that, she has these long gauntlet style gloves. Okay, now they will eventually wear out as well. As you can tell from just the color difference, we work these pretty hard. I use these when I'm grinding, so they get torn up on that. When we're doing fish fries and things, and we're doing, you know, working over hot grease, I don't do that barehanded. That's stupid. So these are the gloves that I wear for that. But you know, they are going to eventually have a couple places where they're wearing through, even when all you're doing is stirring and grabbing, ladles and what have you. They'll eventually wear out. I see there's one down there. Okay, so even leather gloves, good leather gloves, will wear out eventually. So you're going to have to keep finding pairs of these things. When you find something that fits and fits you well, buy a bunch of them. They may not be available. I mean, we've all seen the problems in the supply chain right now. Is that going to get any better? Really? Do you think so? So you need to have gloves. You need to have multiple pairs of them. And you need to have enough pairs, not just for you, but for whoever else is coming to your place. Make sure they've got gloves that fit them and that they wear them. One of the ways you can check on that kind of thing is to do the things together. Build things together, work together. You don't want to have one of your office worker friends come in and suddenly you got to dig, a mile of drainage ditch with shovels and pickaxes, and their little hands have never done any hard work. If they haven't got gloves, they're not making it through the first day, much less the next. So find something that fits, find something that works for you. If the mechanics gloves work for you, great. I don't particularly like them, but a lot of people do. If these rubber dipped fabric gloves, if that's what you're into, cool. Doesn't matter to me. Understand that you have different environments the gloves got to work in. I use leather gloves because they do give me a little bit of insulation against the cold later on. In South Carolina, I can work 3 seasons and actually well into winter with just a leather glove unless it gets wet, and I don't have to worry too much about insulation. But up north, a leather glove was the, protect your fingers from touching metal stuff, but you obviously had to have an insulated something over top of that. So obviously weather conditions. If you're dealing in the rain and the wet and grease and stuff like that, yeah, leather may not be your right answer. Maybe the rubber gloves are better for you. You need to find out what works for you. That's the important thing. If you do a lot of fish filleting, they make those little chainmail gloves for guys that work in the fish industry. Haven't used one, have a friend that absolutely swears by it. He says it's saved his fingers numerous times. Probably ought to check that out and see how that works. If you're dealing with obviously barbed wire or any of the kinds of things that we have here on the homestead, a good pair of heavy leather gloves are the only things that are out there that are going to protect you from that wire. And again, you don't want scratches and cuts, because once you let the blood out, you're letting bacteria in. That can get ugly, and it can get ugly fast. So from a homestead perspective, you need to have them. From a prepper perspective, you need to have them in backstock, a case, and until you know how long it's going to take for those gloves to wear out, you don't really have a good working formula for how many you need. I know I'm going through gloves 8 months to a year. So if I've got 10 pair of gloves, I should be good for 8 to 10 years. You do your own math, find out what works for you. But really, protect your hands. It's the way you interface with the world. I have gloves that are big, heavy neoprene rubber for dealing with chemicals, or a lot of people use those kind of things for dumping their holding tanks if you have an RV. It works. Latex gloves or nitrile gloves for doing first aid things are very, very small. Some people use them when they're painting or dealing with chemicals or something like that. Certainly you need to have a stock of medical gloves put back, and then if you need something for some kind of something you do routinely that you need those kind of same gloves, get a separate stock somewhere else. Work gloves, medical gloves. Worst case scenario, you can swap back and forth, but you ought to have enough to do both. Some people, what's your food plan? What's your food service plan for your group? Are you going to have a food service team, for lack of a better term, that prepares all your meals. Hand washing is important for them, but I know some groups decide to go with those goofy cellophane, I don't know what they're made out of, those see-through gloves that you see in fast food restaurants, for their food service people. So when they make food, when they all come together, everybody wears those goofy little gloves. If that's what your plan is, great, stock those. Certainly this doesn't get you out of the hand washing issue, but that's a food service thing, and that's your call. But the bottom line is you got to have gloves. You got to be able to protect your hands. And if you don't, you're going to wind up with cuts, blisters, any number of injuries that are going to reduce the efficiency of what you can do and maybe take you out of the workforce for a while. And on the worst day of your life, in the worst week of your life, being laid up with blisters on your hand because you were a dumbass and didn't get work gloves is pretty stupid. It's a preventable injury. Why wouldn't you prevent it? Okay, that's all I'm going to say on the subject. Let me know in the comments below what your ideas are. If there's different kinds of gloves you found that work really well for you, certainly make a comment, pass along the information, because everybody is different. Everybody's situation is different. Everybody's working environment is different, and everybody has different preferences. So your preferences may not be my preferences. That's fine. That's why I recommend get something that works for you. But leave your comments below. What do you think are the best gloves for you? What have you found that works for you? And how long do they last? As I tell my friends around here, if your gloves last more than a year, you're not working hard enough. Yeah, kind of up and up in your face issue, but that's the kind of guy I am sometimes. You got to get shook out of your day-to-day. I can go down to Home Depot anytime I need to and get something. You got to start thinking ahead and have it on hand. Okay, so this is Cold Warrior 78 saying, get back out in the woods, get working around the homestead, grow something, build something. It's on you guys. Thanks a lot.